Welcome to Business Line's State of the Economy podcast, where you'll find insight, analysis, and the story behind the numbers.
Hello all, this is Amiti Sen. Welcome to Hindu Business Line's State of Economy podcast for the year end. The year 2024 was quite rocky and eventful for the external sector, with the West Asia situation flaring up, the Red Sea crisis blocking trade flow, and the Russia-Ukraine war showing no signs of coming to an end. While the world is anxiously waiting for some sure signs of reversal of the global economic slowdown in 2025, the Indian industry is also watchful of what US President-elect Donald Trump has in store for the country. I have with me today noted economist and former JNU professor Biswajit Dhar to talk more about the year that was and what lies ahead for India's trade in 2025. Welcome, Professor Dhar.
Thank you very much.
Professor Dhar, to begin with, how well do you think India's exports have fared this year so far? Given the geopolitical turmoil and the global economic situation. So, how would you rate the performance so far?
Yeah, till now it has been doing fairly well. I think beyond expectations of many of us. We didn't expect that given all the geopolitical and other uncertainties that you talked about, we didn't expect India's trade, especially exports, to do as well it has actually done. And in fact, the turnaround in October that we are seeing is quite interesting, and I think going forward this will give a lot of momentum. Now, the global trade forecasts, most of the global agencies are saying that global trade will more or less remain or grow at more or less the same level at which it has grown in 2024. Now, I think that's and for some of us, it seems a brave prediction, because you never know what President Trump could come up with, because he's already threatened the BRICS countries of action against the BRICS countries, increasing tariffs against these countries if they start talking about a common currency. So I think there are these global uncertainties, but overall, I think if you look at the projections of both the global institutions as well as some of the logistics companies, Maersk, for instance, has come out with a very rosy picture for 2025. So if you put all those together, then you'll possibly expect a trade to do quite well in 2025. Now, as far as India is concerned, I think again I'm looking at just 1 month's number, and it seems patchy. It still seems patchy because some sectors are doing pretty well, and other sectors are lagging behind. We can talk about it in greater detail as we go along.
Right. So, like what you're mentioning about the numbers is interesting, because after a long time we saw, considerable growth, so double-digit growth. So, and I think some officials in the Commerce Ministry were also attributing it to good demand during the Christmas season. So, what do you think that we could actually bank on these numbers and hope that India's export performance has now finally moved on to the growth trajectory, and the movement will now go up in the coming months?
Yeah, but we should think so. I think if these numbers are an indicator, and this is just the beginning of the festival season, the numbers that we have seen in October, these are only the beginnings. So I hope that this momentum is carried forward, and the last quarter gives us much better results in terms of export growth. Now, I think that said, one area I'm not very happy about, which is the garment sector. Now, many of us thought that after Bangladesh had this political turmoil and the economy went into a tailspin, in the Indian industry, Indian government sector would actually be able to find its feet and be able to to take advantage of of Bangladesh's misery, if I would like to put it that way. But that hasn't actually happened that much. I think, of course, one might argue that last year, in the 23-24 fiscal, the government sector actually registered a huge negative growth. And this year, of course, it's in positive territory. But I think since the overall prospects are looking so good, beyond our expectations, I thought that the government sector could have actually done somewhat better than it has done, because I'm banking on this sector more because of the labor intensive nature of this sector. And that there is a growth slowdown, there is a consumption squeeze, and keeping that in view, I think the government sector growth should have contributed a lot more to the demand revival that we all expect to happen in the third quarter.
That's right. So, this brings me to my next question. So, when we look at what a second term of for Donald Trump, what it will hold for India. So, there are two sides of the coin that people are looking at. One side is basically negative because he's warned of a lot of tariffs on many countries, and he's also named India. And on the other hand, people are talking about the much higher tariffs that he has threatened on China. And again, a China plus one kind of scenario is there in front of the Indian industry, which, one could actually call a second opportunity after COVID. So now that you've pointed out, the Bangladesh and the textile situation, how India has not been able to take advantage of that. And if we look at the China plus one situation, after COVID, there are countries like Vietnam and Indonesia who have benefited much, much more than India. So, when we look at Donald Trump, how do you see the advantages and disadvantages, playing out for India?
I think that, of course, the China, the misery that Donald Trump is going to heap on China, that could be an advantage for us. That could provide an opportunity for us to increase our global footprint. But we're also looking at a larger penetration in the US market, because hopefully in 2025 we are going to see interest rates come down, and this could actually spur further growth in the US economy. And given the fact that US is the largest market for us for our exports, I was hoping that we actually make the most of the growing opportunities in the US. Now, as far as taking advantage of China's misery is concerned, I would say that we need to reflect on several of the problems that we have had in the past, in terms of our poor logistics and the behind the border issues. We have a lot of bottlenecks that we face, our exporters face, and these have to be looked at the government very carefully, because we are losing opportunities, and that's a shame, that we're not able to make the most. So I think the government and the industry again need to sit together very carefully, look at the industries where the possibilities of exports are there, and work on those areas very carefully. I think that is very important for us.
Right. So, in a nutshell, when you look at the year 2025, what, according to you, would define 2025 for Indian trade?
Now, I think the defining sort of, if I use the cliche defining moment, would be how Donald Trump sort of treats India. And in the past, we have seen in his first term, India he didn't let India get off the hook, and along with China, he also penalized India. So we have to wait and watch how Donald Trump, this whole policy, the Trump policy plays out, the Trump tariffs play out. And that is going to be very important, because if the Trump tariffs are used extensively, then we are in for a pretty dismal kind of a situation, because I'm sure there's going to be retaliatory tariffs imposed by other countries. Mexico and China have already threatened in response to what Donald Trump had promised them, that the first day in Oval Office is going to increase tariffs. So they've already threatened him. And if it goes further, then it'll be bad news for global trade overall. So I think in this challenging situation, we have to see where our opportunities lie. And like I said, that taking advantage of the slack that Bangladesh is facing now in terms of garment exports, that's something that we need to really work on very carefully and make the most of it. Electronics will be another area where I think the Trump tariffs are going to hit China, and how we can keep the momentum. Of course, our electronic sector has been going fairly well, and the challenge is to keep the growth momentum. And what are the things that are required to keep the growth momentum going? That will be the real challenge for us.
Thank you, Professor Dhar, for giving such a crisp and clear picture of India's trade scenario. 2025 is certainly going to be a year to watch out for, especially after Jan 20. We hope to have you with us in the new year to explain more issues as they unravel. Thank you again.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.